know that I've scared you, but I will spend every minute of our lives making sure you never feel that way again. I'm your mom.
Welcome back inside the film room. I'm Zach Goins, your editor-in-chief, and today I'm joined by the brilliant Aneesh Chaganty. He's the filmmaker behind 2018's breakout tech thriller Searching, and now he's back with his second feature. It's called Run. It's an equally impressive thriller, and it's coming out on Hulu later this month. Aneesh, thank you so much for joining me.
Zach, thank you for having me and for pronouncing my last name perfectly. Well done. I didn't even.
I did my homework on that one. I made sure I listened to podcasts. I was ready to go.
Wow, well done. Yeah, thank you. And thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So for those people who may not know, who haven't seen a trailer for Run, can you sort of give a little breakdown of what they should expect from this second film that you've made?
Totally. If you're aware of the first film, Run is sort of the exact opposite of Searching, but on its own, sort of like Run is like a very sort of bare bones, classic, ideally timeless sort of thriller about a young daughter who's sort of grown up, isolated from the rest of the world and raised by her very doting, loving single mother. And her life is sort of idyllic and perfect, but on the eve of her about to sort of embark on this college chapter and moving out of the house, she discovers a very innocuous object in a shopping bag. And all of a sudden that innocuous object gets her mind worrying or mind going and starting to like raise a couple questions, which lead her to investigating around the house, which lead her to like poking around some more. And all of a sudden she's starting to fear that like every single element of her and her mom's relationship that her entire life has been built on is actually a lie. And as that sort of like lie gets bigger and bigger, it starts to grow into actual physical danger. And suddenly Chloe has to, who's the main girl, possibly escape for her life.
Yeah, I mean, extremely intense. I mean, Searching was intense as well, but like you mentioned, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But from Searching to Run, and even your Google Glass commercial that you did, there's always been like a parent-child relationship. That's a trend that I've sensed. And those other two are much more like warm and fuzzy because they're looking for their child or reuniting or something like that. But what is it that that inspired you to sort of explore such a dark and sinister twist on that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's partly answered by one of the things that you just said, which is that everything I've ever done has been this sort of like very positive, ends in a warm fuzzy, like parents are great, like this is the positives of that love kind of a relationship. And like, that's where my heart is in general. Like, that's what I like, my own life experiences and have obviously informed me enough to like make this element or thread such a consistent through line in all these films. But I wanted to like, because Run intentionally was such a direct response to Searching and not trying to make something as complex and trying to make something the opposite of it, just hyper simple and bare boned. I wanted to sort of do the opposite as well and just dip my toes into the dark side for one movie, and like make a film that was like asking the question about basically like, could your parent love a kid too much? And at one point does that like warm hug become smothering, and that
Right.
sort of question was sort of propelling us to write this thing. And it felt like it when, the whole time making it, I was like, that's a really, really interesting question. And like, I like that this is such a tonal opposite to what we did before.
And I mean, the subject matter itself is very like tonally dark, but most of that comes from Sarah Paulson as the lead, as Diane. And I mean, she's kind of become somewhat of like a modern horror icon, from American Horror Story to Ratched to Glass. But I know with Searching, you had John Cho in mind for David Kim's character. Was that the case here as you were writing Diane? Did you know Sarah Paulson was the one, or how did that casting decision come about?
No, this time we didn't write the mom with anyone specifically in mind, but I will say we were blown away when someone of Sarah's caliber was actually interested in like the script, like that was like, when that was a vaguely an opportunity where it was just like, Sarah's interested, do you want to meet her? It was like, yes, 100% lock, kind of a deal. Cause like anybody who watches Sarah Paulson, I think generally comes out with the impression like that is one of our better actors, like in the entire
Right.
industry. And I happen to think she is probably top 3 working actors like right now. But for me, like it was never written for Sarah, but like it was written ideally, hopefully, as a meaty role for someone to like chew in and choose.
Mhm.
It's a very sort of like scenery chewing role. It's very like Annie Wilkes in Misery, where Kathy Bates plays her.
Right.
Very much sort of like that presence that starts off in a very loving and cool and totally normal way, and then ends up
Right.
in this like devil incarnate. And I think like that sort of range was something that only someone of Sarah's caliber, possibly only Sarah, could pull off.
I think that you nailed it then, because while I was watching it, I had Misery vibes
Yeah.
as I was trying to find some sort of comparison. But
We used to pitch the movie as this like, I mean, like the easiest pitch of the movie is it's Misery with a mom and a daughter. Like I think like that is the easiest one-liner.
yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. But so like talking about how great Sarah Paulson is, I know another thing that you tend to do, at least with Searching and this, is pairing an established actor, a Sarah Paulson or a John Cho, with these sort of unknowns and let them step into their own and then use this to propel them forward. And another thing you do is you represent like underrepresented groups on camera. So whether that was an Asian American family in Searching or someone who's wheelchair bound in this movie. So I want to know, you're able to do both with Kiera Allen, a relative unknown, and someone from an underrepresented group. So how did that casting come about, and why was it so important to you to use someone who is actually a wheelchair user?
So yeah, I think it's weird, like, because Searching was that, but like so unintentionally loud about it. Like it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
we voted for John, great. John's family's Korean American, cool. Looks like the people we grew up with, great, done. Like it was never like, look at us, and
Right.
it weirdly became this like example of what could be done, and it was like felt so weird talking about something that we were intentionally not trying to talk about. And then in this film, I think watching that response and everything like that, it just highlighted to us, Nat, the producer, Sev, co-writer and producer, just like that, like you can have, regardless of what people think about a movie, whether they love it or they hate it or it's somewhere in between, like you can still have an objective win about something. It doesn't have to entirely be about like just the film. Like, and I think like casting
Mm-hmm.
is such right now a way to be able to do that, where you can just slip one card into a deck, and because the other deck is enough for a financier or a studio to be like, okay, we're good on that. That one card's not going to change the pile in any way. And for us, that the deck was Sarah Paulson, and like people are seeing this movie because of Sarah Paulson, but they're walking out of it being like, who is that? And I think like Kiera Allen is just so good in this movie, but like she's only in there in a sense, on a purely financial sense, because like Sarah's in it and like you're going to see Sarah.
Right.
And I think like, being able to be strategic about how we're doing this, I think is something that we're learning to be better at and stuff. But it was very important from the beginning. There was just no question that like, this is a role, this character is disabled. Our actor is going to be disabled. Like, it's just like, there was never
Right.
like a question about it. Obviously we had to convince Lionsgate, who's a studio, making the film at the time. So to do it. And they were obviously all competing up against the Disney stars and like the names that, you
Mm-hmm.
and I would have heard about or seen in commercials and ads or movies and stuff. So, but like ultimately, so much props to them for being able to like do that, because it's not every studio and it's not every production company that puts money where its mouth is. And for them to be able to like cast the first, I think like we found out that it was like, it's the first lead movie, like first like movie or thriller since like the 40s to be headlined by somebody who uses a wheelchair. And it's just like,
Wow.
that is not easy to do
Right.
from a financial standpoint and say, let's do it. Let's trust this kid who's never made a live action movie to go and go pull this off. So I'm very, very thankful for the people around us who helped us make that happen.
Right. Well, I think it definitely worked, at least from my point of view. I hope everybody else has the same reaction that I did. But I mean, you're 29 years old now. You're 2 features under your belt. What's next? I know Searching 2 is somewhere on the horizon, but I don't think you're writing and directing that. And then I have done a little research on your next film, which is going to be a heist thriller in the world of immigration. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when you say I'm 29, that means I'm basically 1 year away from not being able to use my age in a bio anymore. So Searching 2, I'm not writing or directing. 7, I wrote the story for it, and we're producing the film along with Natalie Kasabian, sort of the lead producer on it. But and haven't announced who the director, like the name of the director or the name of the directors, but it's we are going to. That'll be very soon. We're very excited, and it is a very, very, very obvious choice in a way. Like, I think once people find out who's directing the movie, it'll just be like, yeah, this movie's gonna rock. So we're very excited about that.
Is it gonna be too on the nose? Is it just gonna be all Zoom, since that's what we're living through this year? Yeah. Are people gonna be sick of it?
Yeah, it's a one-shot Zoom movie. No, so that's actually, funny enough, that's actually being made right now. Like right now they are animaticking the prevising the movie, which is how we made Searching. We made the movie before we made the movie. So now they're pre-making the movie. And so that's going along really well. And then, my next film is a heist film that's set in the backdrop of the immigration industry. And it is something I'm really, really excited about because, like, I think, again, responding to Searching to Run now, it's like, one thing that I did on purpose with Run was make a film that was just bare bones, like nothing. It is just like clean and simple. You walk in, you walk out. Like this is the objective, and we're going to accomplish the objective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like since then, I one of the things that I really want to do with Citizen is just like the easiest way to say it is just say something, more, and I think like that is like I feel like there's a lot that's been building up about this particular element of the world and of America in particular, which is like the immigration industry. And like I think like we can put that, and if we can package that in a way that is very, very palatable as like a 4-quadrant heist thriller, I think like we'll be able to do something very cool. And I will hopefully have found a balance between the ingenuity of Searching, the simplicity of Run, and then hopefully kind of just find something hopefully in the middle. But this is a lifelong journey, and we'll connect on the next one, and you can tell me how we did.
Great. Yeah, let's do it. But one last question, throwing it back to your Google days. Holidays right around the corner. It's been a tough year, been a strange year. If you were to be making a Google commercial to get somebody in their feels for 2020, what would it look like?
Wow, that's a really good question. By the way, you have done your research, and I really appreciate it. Like, this is very
well. Thank you.
Very specific questions. Dude, that's a great question. If I were to do a Google commercial today, they don't employ me anymore. I don't feel like Google has sort of shifted away from their story-based commercials into something a little bit more very product-y. Like, we could see it early on. Like, if you were watching any of the sports playoffs, like all of them are about like just very specific functions, but they're not telling you it in the form of a story. And I think like I don't know, like I really miss the days when Google would just tell a story using their devices and not just like like where to go to get this thing, and then we show it and like use your search to like find this thing, it'd rather just tell the story. So obviously if I did something with it, it'd be with a story, but that's I can't think of anything crazy new that's been done from a Google standpoint. So I think it would have to be like, I always wanted to make a story using Google Docs or using Google Drive. One of the ideas that I really, really want to make is, and I don't know how this would pull off. Okay, this is an idea. So like, like when you spell your name, I'm sure it's happened with your last name. It happens with my first and last name with like the red checker.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
The thing. I think there's a whole commercial with that symbol. Like, I think like that symbol is so powerful in a way of validation and like making your identity feel like it belongs in a space. And I think like you can turn that little like check mark, that little red squiggly line, and like
into a sign of acceptance.
Having someone learn it and like having that thing in like future. I don't know. There's something there that I want to mess with, but like,
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of emotional.
Like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciated it. Run coming out November 20th on Hulu. Everybody needs to check it out. It's a great movie. I can vouch for it already, but thanks again, Aneesh. I really appreciate you.
Zach. I appreciate your questions. Thank you very much.